Welcome to Module 2 of Comprehension. This mini lecture will discuss some of the reader factors involved in comprehension. Let's begin with an anticipation guide. Pause this mini lecture and print out the lecture notes that accompanies this lecture, if you have not already done so. Then take a few minutes to complete this anticipation guide. For each of the statements related to comprehension, put a check under agree or disagree to show how you feel. Comprehension is the goal for reading. It's the reason why people read. Comprehension involves different levels of thinking, from literal to inferential, critical, and evaluative. Literal comprehension is the most basic level of comprehension. Readers pick out main ideas, sequence details, and notice similarities and differences to understand what's explicitly stated in a text. The second level is inferential comprehension. Here, readers draw inferences using clues in the text, implied information, and their own knowledge. The third level is critical comprehension. Here, readers analyze symbolic meanings, distinguish between facts and opinions, and draw conclusions. Evaluative comprehension is the fourth and most sophisticated level. Readers judge the value of the text they're reading using generally accepted criteria and personal standards. We will now discuss the 6 reader factors that affect comprehension. This chart shows the role of comprehension for each factor. Pause this clip to read the chart. Having adequate background knowledge is a prerequisite because when students have both word knowledge and literary knowledge, it provides a bridge to a new text. When students don't have adequate background knowledge, they're likely to find the text very challenging, and it's doubtful that they'll be successful. Students' knowledge of words plays a tremendous role in comprehension because it's difficult to comprehend a text that's loaded with unknown words. It's also possible that when students don't know many words related to a topic, they don't have adequate background knowledge either. For more information on vocabulary, watch the vocabulary mini lectures. Fluent readers read quickly and efficiently. Because they recognize most words automatically, their cognitive resources aren't depleted by decoding unfamiliar words, and they can devote their attention to comprehension. In the primary grades, developing reading fluency is an important component of comprehension instruction because students need to learn to recognize words automatically so they can concentrate on comprehending what they're reading. For more information on fluency, watch the Fluency mini lecture. Comprehension strategies are thoughtful behaviors that students use to facilitate their understanding as they read. Some strategies are cognitive, they involve thinking. Others are metacognitive, where students reflect on their thinking. Some combine comprehension skills with comprehension strategies. For our purposes, we will separate them. Comprehension skills are similar but involve literal thinking. These skills are identifying main idea, recognizing details, noticing similarities and differences, sequencing details, and choosing a good title for a text. There are 12 general comprehension strategies that we will now briefly discuss. The first 4 are shown here. The first column shows the strategy, the middle column shows what the readers do in that strategy. The last column shows how the strategy aids comprehension. Pause the mini lecture to read this slide at your own pace. Here are the next 4 of the 12 general comprehension strategies. Pause this mini lecture again to read about these 4 general strategies. Here are the last 4 general strategies. Pause the mini lecture to read about these general strategies. Comprehension skills are similar to strategies but require a little more literal thinking. These skills include recognizing details, noticing similarities and differences, identifying topic sentences, comparing and contrasting main ideas and details, matching causes with effects, sequencing details, paraphrasing ideas, choosing a good title for a text, recognizing the author's purpose, detecting propaganda, and distinguishing between fact and opinion. Students use comprehension strategies at every stage in the reading process, but their activities vary from stage to stage depending on the strategy being used. The chart shown here explains what readers do to comprehend at each stage and the strategies they use. Sometimes strategies are grouped into before reading, during reading, and after reading strategies, but that categorization doesn't really work. Although setting a purpose is almost always a pre-reading strategy, and monitoring and repairing are usually reading stage strategies, Students use connecting, drawing, inferencing, questioning, and other strategies in more than one stage. Comprehension instruction involves teaching students how to comprehend what they're reading. Teachers use explicit instruction, reading, and writing to develop students' understanding of fiction and nonfiction texts. Researchers emphasize the need to establish the expectation that the books students read and the compositions they write will make sense. Teachers create an expectation of comprehension in these ways: involving students in authentic reading activities every day, providing access to well-stocked classroom libraries, teaching students to use comprehension strategies, ensuring that students are fluent readers, providing opportunities for students to talk about the books they're reading, and linking vocabulary instruction to underlying concepts. Modeling is the process by which an expert, you the teacher, shows a non-expert, the student, how to perform a task so that they can build their own understanding of how to complete that task. How a task can be completed is either implicit, in the head, or explicit. The fact that comprehension is an invisible mental process makes it difficult to teach. However, through explicit instruction, teachers can make comprehension more visible. They explain what comprehension is and why it's important, and they model how to do it by thinking aloud. The Think Aloud strategy is a procedure in which teachers or students verbalize their thoughts while reading or writing to describe their strategy use. Teachers teach individual comprehension strategies and then show students how to integrate several strategies simultaneously. Teachers introduce each comprehension strategies in a series of mini-lessons. Mini-lessons are explicit instruction about literary procedures, concepts, strategies, and skills that are taught to individual students, small groups, or the whole class, depending on student need. Once students know how to use individual strategies, they need to learn how to use routines or combinations of strategies, because capable readers rarely use strategies one at a time. One of the most effective comprehension routines is reciprocal teaching, in which students in upper elementary and middle school work in small groups and use predicting, questioning, clarifying, and summarizing strategies to figure out the meaning of a text paragraph by paragraph. Teachers can use interactive instructional procedure with the whole class when students are reading chapters in content area textbooks or when they're reading novels in literature circles. Metacognition is being conscious of your mental processes. When you are reading, do you reread a section because you didn't quite understand it? Do you go back and reread any sentences? Are you aware of whether the text is making sense? If so, you are engaged in metacognition. The four major aspects of metacognition in reading are knowing oneself as a learner, regulating, checking, and repairing. Motivation is intrinsic, the innate curiosity that makes us want to figure things out. Everything teachers do affect their students' interest and engagement with literacy, but four of the most important factors are teachers' attitude, the community teachers create, the instructional approaches they use, and their reward systems. It seems obvious that when teachers show that they care about their students and exhibit excitement and enthusiasm for learning, students are more likely to become engaged. Effective teachers also stimulate students' curiosity and encourage them to explore ideas. They emphasize intrinsic over extrinsic motivation because they understand that students' intrinsic desire to learn is more powerful than grades, rewards, and other extrinsic motivators. Students are more likely to engage in reading and writing when their classroom is a learning community that respects and nurtures everyone. In a community of learners, students enjoy social interaction and feel connected to their classmates and their teacher. The types of literacy activities students are involved in affect their interest and motivation. Researchers have found that open-ended activities and projects in which students were in control of the processes they used and the products they created were the most successful. Therefore, focus on the students' long-term learning. You can even have them set individual long-term goals. Teach students to be strategic readers and writers using metacognition. Engage students in authentic activities. Offer students choices of activities and reading materials. They are more motivated and engaged if they have some buy-in with the assignment. It was the project he or she chose to do. Many teachers consider using rewards to encourage students to do more reading and writing, but Alfie Kahn and others believe that extrinsic incentives are harmful because they undermine students' intrinsic motivation. Incentives such as pizzas, free time, or money to spend in the classroom store are most effective when students' interest is very low and they're reluctant to participate in literary activities. Once students become more interested, teachers withdraw these incentives and use less tangible ones, including positive feedback and praise. I have used both. I find when I use extrinsic motivations, students come to expect it and ask for it. I told my 4th graders when they started asking for the points to earn the rewards, if you ask for it, the answer is no. Motivation isn't something that teachers or parents can force on students. Rather, it's innate, intrinsic desire that students must develop themselves. They are more likely to be engaged with reading and writing when they expect to be successful, when they work collaboratively with classmates, when they're competent readers and writers, and when they have opportunities to make choices and develop ownership of their work. Students who believe that they have little hope of success are unlikely to become engaged in literacy activities. You, as their teacher, play a huge role in shaping their expectations, and your expectations are often self-fulfilling. If you believe that they can be successful, it's more likely that they will be. Researchers have found that in classrooms where teachers take a personal interest in their students and expect that all of them can learn, the students are more successful. Teach your students how to set realistic goals for their reading and writing progress. When students work with classmates in pairs or small groups, they're often more interested and engaged in the activities than when they read and write alone. Collaborative groups support students because they have opportunities to share ideas, learn from each other, and enjoy the collegiality of their classmates. Competition, in contrast, doesn't develop intrinsic motivation. Instead, it decreases many students' interest in learning. If you have to compete, have the whole class as one team competing against you, the teacher. My 4th graders loved it, them against me. Finally, allowing students to participate in making plans and choices. Some teachers may be reluctant to allow students choices. However, it is not a free-for-all for the students. Rather, it can be choices between 2 or 3 if older students. Options. Not surprisingly, students' competence in reading affects their motivation. Students who read well are more likely to be motivated to read than those who read less well, and the same is true for writers. This is an example of the Matthew effect, where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Therefore, teach students strategies for reading comprehension. Provide guided reading lessons for struggling readers, but many guided reading lessons can be done whole class. Most importantly, provide daily reading and writing opportunities. Students want to have a say in which books they read and which topics they write about. By making choices, students develop more responsibility for their work and ownership of their accomplishments. Reading and writing workshops are instructional approaches that honor students' choices. In reading workshop, students choose books they're interested in reading and that are written at their reading level. When you have these few students who just don't know what to choose, have 2 or 3 options they can choose from. To do this, you need to know your students. To help you know your students, have them complete interest inventories discussed in Comprehension Module 4. Teach students how to choose books at their reading level. Many school librarians can help with this.